I think Tserriednich is safely 1 in a billion, if not 1 in 10.
Thank you, Mr. Mongonimus, for that estimate. So, Tserriednich is a 1 in 1 billion talent. I know it could be 1 in 10 billion, but we're going to go with 1 in a billion to be on the conservative side. So if he's 1 in a billion, that means that there are 8 total people, including him, in the world of Hunter x Hunter that have that level of talent. That is, assuming that Hunter x Hunter has a world population of 8 billion. They do have a very, very similar continental structure, so 8 billion I feel like is somewhat correct. And according to Google, there have been 100 to 117 billion people ever, which means that there have been 100 to 117 people ever to have that level of talent. So the question I'm asking is the talent of Tserriednich of Hunter x Hunter equivalent to the most talented character in Jujutsu Kaisen? Satoru Gojo, the honored one born with the Limitless and the Six Eyes, a truly very, very rare occurrence. Not a lot of him have existed, and essentially none have existed with his level of competency. It is said that when Gojo was born, the entire status of the world shifted. The entire world's curse energy became stronger to potentially rival this man right here. And as far as we know, nothing like that ever happened when Tserriednich was born, especially considering that Tserriednich didn't even use Nen until he was late into his adult life, whereas Gojo was very aware of cursed energy since he was a child. Let's try to quantify the talent of Gojo the way we can quantify the talent of Tserriednich. It's said in Jujutsu Kaisen that there is always one person currently alive with the Six Eyes. However, not all of these people have the Limitless technique. We know that Gojo was the first person in the Gojo clan to be born with both the Limitless and the Six Eyes in 400 years. Now, we unfortunately don't know how long Jujutsu sorcerers have been around, but since we know that Sukuna is at least 1,000 years old and Kenjaku is potentially older than that, let's use the estimate of 10,000 years. We have had 10,000 years of Jujutsu. And if we're going to assume that every 400 years someone with the Limitless and the Six Eyes is born, then that means there have been 25 people with both the Limitless and the Six Eyes technique across the history of Jujutsu if they have been around for 10,000 years. So that's a big speculation. It has also been stated on multiple occasions that Gojo, as rare as he is still even more rare because his talent is unlike that of any other Six Eyes and Limitless user in history. So there are about 25 people in history that have the Six Eyes and the Limitless technique, which means that out of those 25, they are 1 in 4.32 billion. So just having the Limitless and the Six Eyes is 1 in 4 billion. But Gojo is more talented than almost every other person to have the Limitless and the Six Eyes, which means he is about 1 in 100 billion. But since talent can't actually be measured like that, let's just say Gojo is 1 in 4.3 billion, assuming that Jujutsu sorcerers have been around for 10,000 years. Which means, if you're being very conservative, that means Gojo is more talented than Prince Tserriednich because he is a 1 in 4 billion talent, while Tserriednich is a 1 in 1 billion talent. However, if you're going to use the more liberal numbers, then Tserriednich would be 1 in 10 billion. However, if you're going to use liberal numbers for one person, you've got to be liberal with the other person, which would mean that Gojo is 1 in 100 billion, which means that Gojo's talent still far surpasses that of Tserriednich. But this gets a little bit more complicated when you consider the growth of both Tserriednich and Gojo. The reason I've been using this image here is because at this point in Gojo's life, he had mastered a lot of aspects of cursed energy, but not all of them. At this age in Gojo's life, not specifically this image, let's give it after his awakening, he has RCT, blue, red, purple, all of Limitless, except the domain, and his intelligence and hand-to-hand ability is far above almost everybody else alive in the world at that time. So in 16 years, he mastered almost all of the aspects of cursed energy, and we can assume that it didn't take much longer for him to master the domain and long-distance teleportation. So let's say that at age 18, Gojo had mastered every aspect of cursed energy. And where it stands currently, Tserriednich has mastered the basics of Nen in less than a week, which is quite a bit faster than Gojo mastered the basics of cursed energy as far as we know. However, Nen does not have defined boundaries of power. What I mean by that is there's no domain expansion for Nen, there's no RCT, there's no specifically measured levels of strength that there are with cursed energy. So there's really no way of quantifying at what time that Tserriednich reaches the same level of understanding of Nen that Gojo did of cursed energy. However, there's so many howevers, we do know that Tserriednich subconsciously manifested his own Nen spirit beast, which pretty much never happens. And he did that in only a few weeks of knowing about Nen, which is just absolutely bonkers. I think it's safe to say that Nen as a power system compared to Cursed Energy has a far higher skill ceiling, which means that someone in the Hunter x Hunter world can reach a level of power that far surpasses anybody in the world of Cursed Energy. And we don't even need to use math for this one, but if this guy, Tserriednich, mastered the basics of Nen in a week, how long will it take him to master the maximum potential capabilities of Nen? Not very long. Whereas with Gojo, it took him at least 18 years to master every known aspect of Cursed Energy. Which means you can logically say that Tserriednich is more talented at Nen than Gojo is at Cursed Energy. Which, of course, would contradict the statement that Gojo is more talented than Tserriednich because Gojo is at least 1 in 4 billion. So, if you're more of a numbers type of guy, then you can say that Gojo is more talented than Tserriednich because he is at least 1 in 4 billion. And I think that saying that Jujutsu sorcerers are around for 10,000 years is honestly pretty conservative because, by most scientific standards, humans have been around in their current form for at least 100,000 years. So, I think 10,000 years is being very conservative. So, Gojo could be way more than 1 in 4 billion. But if you're much more of a conceptual guy, then you could safely say that Tserriednich is much more talented than Gojo because he leveled up within Nen much faster than Gojo did within Cursed Energy. Now, you technically could make the argument that Gojo could have mastered the basics of Cursed Energy at a very, very young age within a very, very short amount of time, but then that's assuming that things like a domain expansion are at least 15 years ahead of the basics of Cursed Energy, which could be the case, but out of the people we've seen with a domain expansion, it did not take them that long to develop it compared to when they first started using Cursed Energy, such as Mahito or Jogo. What I mean by that is that Mahito has not been around for a very long time, and he mastered the basics of Cursed Energy and a domain expansion in a relatively short amount of time compared to each other. So, TLDR, it's really hard to determine. However, if I had to pick somebody, I would say Gojo because the entire balance of the world shifted when he was born, and as far as we know, such a thing did not happen with Tserriednich. Of course, this could change as Hunter x Hunter continues to go on because Tserriednich's story is only just beginning, and unfortunately, Gojo's is definitely finished. But let me know what you think. Do you think that Tserriednich is more talented than Gojo, or is it the other way around, or am I just a complete lunatic for trying to compare the two? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you so much for watching. This was one of the most fun videos I've made in a very long time.